You guys seldom get to see the after effects of being on the road shooting Expedition Texas all day. Yeah, we're usually out and in some old abandoned building, and it's usually hot and dirty. And this is kind of what it looks like when I end up back where we're staying at the end of the day. We always tend to move from one location to another in a matter of, we shoot one place during the day, and by that night, we're in our next location, sort of bedded down for the next day. That is no different this time, except that the place we're staying is not some hotel room. It is a bed and breakfast in a rustic house that was built in 1906. This is probably the first time that I could actually do an expedition on our accommodations. Very cool house. We arrived here in the dead of night, so we haven't been able to see the outside of it, but as you can tell from behind me here, it's very rustic and very cool. It's called the Harris House, and it's in Clifton, Texas. And I'm recording this on my cell phone because all of our gear is put away for the night. But just to tell you and to introduce you to this, the first episode of season 10, our 10th season of this show. 5 years now we've been on the road doing this. And we start off season 10 by spending the night in a 111-year-old house. This is going to be pretty cool. What a way to kick off season 10.
Texas is full of lost history, from lost cemeteries to abandoned buildings, from the infamous to the obscure. Hitch a ride and travel across the Lone Star State, looking for hints of Texas' colorful past, our lost history. This is Expedition Texas, and we're gonna find it.
Expedition Texas, presented by JMT Music Entertainment. See your favorite artists live in concert. Find shows near you on Facebook at JMT Music Entertainment. Clifton, Texas claims the moniker Norwegian capital of Texas. On your first pass through the small town, the reason may not be apparent, but a quick trip out the scenic countryside will quickly give you clues where the name came from. So, after a night of typical Clifton hospitality, a stay at the Harris House Bed and Breakfast, a country home that's over 100 years old, we're headed into town to meet up with our guides, Ashley, Abel, and Paige Key. We'll meet Ashley and Paige at the Corner Drug Cafe to plot our course for the day. Hey, Paige, Ashley.
Hi.
How are y'all?
Hey, Bob. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. So, I understand you've been working on putting together a list of places that we're going to visit today that show us why Clifton is the Norwegian capital of Texas.
We have been.
So tell us about some of the places we're going to today.
Ooh, we have a long list of places today.
Awesome.
We've got several historic churches and cemeteries and homes and lots of places to find.
Now, I understand that out here somewhere that there is an old mill that we'll get to see.
That's what we're being told. Now,
Okay.
I haven't seen it. Paige hasn't seen it. We've seen the homestead as it's been renovated over the last several years. But this is going to be a treat for us too.
Wow, so some real lost history out here in Clifton. Awesome, can't wait to go see it. And after a great breakfast at the Corner Drug Cafe, we met the owner, Phyllis Reiser.
Hello.
Hey, Phyllis, this is Bob Malden.
Bob,
This is Phyllis
nice
Reiser.
to meet
Phyllis
you.
and her family own the Corner Drug Cafe. Her daughter Nina is the chef in the back that is making these masterpieces that you'll soon get to try.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to try some here. It's a cool place you have here.
This is a wonderful place. Been a part of this community for many, many years. And we are very lucky to have come this May and bring our daughter from Houston and here to be a part of Clifton, which we love.
Loving Clifton seems to be a common thread among the people here, but we're about to head out to the countryside to find out what makes Clifton the Norwegian capital of Texas. If you're not following Expedition Texas on Facebook, you're missing half the fun. We'll take you behind the scenes with photos and live videos from the road. See what we're up to while we're out digging up great stories to tell on TV. Then watch for opportunities to share your story ideas or just drop us a line and let us know how you're doing. Follow Expedition Texas on Facebook at Expedition Texas. We're starting our expedition this week in Clifton, Texas, and headed out into Bosque County to explore the area's rich Norwegian heritage. Our guides, Ashley Abel and Paige Key, have plotted a course across the rolling countryside to visit the sites first settled by Norwegians entering the United States in the 1850s. Cling Pearson is a name you'll hear a lot on this trip. That's because he brought the first group of Norwegians to Texas. In 1854, the Texas state legislature granted him 320 acres of land west of Clifton. Pearson lived there until his death in 1865 and is buried in the cemetery by Our Savior's Lutheran Church in Cranfill's Gap. That church and Pearson's grave are our first stops.
So here we are at Our Savior's Lutheran Church. This is the first Lutheran church in Bosque County. And out here is the Our Savior's Lutheran Cemetery. That big tall monument out there is actually the marker for Cling Pearson. He's known as the father of Norwegian immigration to Texas. So that is actually his gravestone. And underneath it is actually a monument as well from when King Olaf V from Norway came and visited.
Really?
So, and then back behind you is the church. So let's go inside.
Oh, wow.
It's gorgeous, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is all original. The outside was updated many years ago, somewhere back in the 1920s, I think, somewhere in there. But the inside is still the original wood church.
So this is kind of a replica of what it was like at home for them.
Absolutely.
So this is like kind of they feel like they're at home in church.
Absolutely. Well, and the hills that we're surrounded by was one of the reasons that they settled in this area, was because it reminded them so much of Norway.
And outside the church, a stone fence lined the property.
So here, Bob, we've got what used to be the boundary around the church and the parsonage. It's this rock wall. This is part of the original founding settlers built this as they were working the fields, and they pulled the rocks out. They started building this wall, and this wall actually goes down the road, and we'll pass more of it here in a little bit. It's made out of the native limestone, which is prevalent in this area. You'll see the churches, they utilize it in the churches and the cabins, and this fence has been here since day one.
Really? And so this is what was in the ground, and as they're going along, they pull it out, they use it to build their homes, and we're gonna see homes and even buildings in Clifton?
Barns, yes. In fact, you'll see the churches. You'll see the downtown area. You know, limestone is used in just a lot of the building in the entire area.
Cool. And there, you said there's a church built out of this?
We're about to go see it.
Awesome, let's go. On our way to the Rock Church, we came across a perfect example of a Norwegian settler's home sitting in a lonesome field untouched for decades. Once houses like this were scattered across the countryside in Bosque County. However, back in the road, we found something we've always wanted to see, something that folks here see more than they'd like. So we've always wanted to see a rattlesnake on the show, and this is as close as we're gonna get. It's dead, but here's our first rattlesnake.
It's safe though.
Yeah, it's safe. This one will not bite me. And somebody cut the rattles off. Yeah.
Awful.
Oh well, there you go. I feel like the crocodile hunter now. Yeah. He's not gonna bite! There's a penny too. Is there some kind of is there some kind of tradition when you kill a rattlesnake you're supposed to leave money?
I don't know, maybe.
A couple of pennies? Here we go.
I think it's a memorial sort of.
Yeah, it's a memorial.
Yeah.
All right. And lurking in the nearby trees, seeming very unamused by our dead snake wrangling, a giant bull elk. But what we really came to see down this road was a little further down, the old stone church.
Hello. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you. Miss Geneva, This is Bob Malden. Bob, Geneva Finstead.
It's nice to meet you.
Velkommen to St. Olofs Kirk. Jeg kan ikke snakke ekte norsk. Jeg kan bare snakke lite grann.
What'd she say?
Welcome was what I got out.
Yeah, I got that, yeah.
Welcome, and I can't really speak Norwegian, but I can speak a little bit.
Is that what you said?
It's more than I said. In fact, it was at my grandfather's dinner table where the discussion first came about to build this church.
in and around Clifton, Texas, the Norwegian capital of Texas, and we're finding out why. The Norwegians first settled here in 1854, led by a man by the name of Cling Pearson. Pearson brought the original group over and settled them here because the rolling terrain reminded them so much of their home country of Norway. Many original structures from that time still stand. One recently restored example is the Norse Church. There we've met up with Geneva Finstead, a direct descendant of one of the first families to come to Texas. Wearing a traditional bunad, she has decided to help us step back in time to learn about the old building.
This is all original. The pews have never been refinished because they were done special with a special tool like a comb, and we could never redo that. And the floor is original, the altar is original, the wood stove is used even today when it's something happening out here in the wintertime. We build a fire in that, and our organ is in the balcony now. Originally it sat over on that side by the choir benches, but it was refurbished when we redid the church. It's a Vocalion reed organ that is very rare.
And does it work?
It works.
Wow.
We have very few people who can pump and play at the same time.
Oh, I bet.
So you're a descendant of the people that built and worshiped in this church.
Yes. In fact, it was at my grandfather's dinner table where the discussion first came about to build this church. The population had grown to the west so much it was a distance for people to travel by their horse and buggy or wagon. And they asked the pastor, if they built a church closer to their homes, if he would also preach at the new church. So he replied, if you don't make it too far for me to travel.
So what's out here?
About 2,000 of my relatives. Oh, I know everyone out here almost, or know of them, went to school with them, went to church with them. I'm taking you to see the first grave that was in the cemetery in April of 1885 before the church was built, and also my great-grandfather. I want you to see his tombstone. It says, "He is buried in the dust, but his name shall live forever." And many of his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren are buried in this cemetery. If you look at the tombstones, you see many of the names Knutson. My grandfather lived to be in his 80s, which was unusual for this time. He was buried here in I had to look, I don't even remember, 1889. And it says, are buried in the dust, and their names shall live forever. And with all the Knutson names in this cemetery, that name is still alive. I have 7 generations of my family buried in this cemetery. Wow. And I can't leave out my grandmother, Kari. She lived to an elderly woman also.
1913, huh?
Yes. And this is the first person buried before the church was built, Siri Swenson.
So Bob, welcome to Crankle's Gap and the Horny Toad Bar and Grill.
Awesome. This week we're in Bosque County. We started off in Clifton, Texas, known as the Norwegian capital of Texas. This rich history is represented in churches, cemeteries, and even a few homes. We started off at Our Savior's Lutheran Church and the adjoining cemetery where Kling Pearson is buried. Pearson is responsible for bringing the first group of Norwegians to Texas. Then we went to visit a restored church filled with all of its original furnishings, and then into the nearby cemetery to learn even more history. There's still much more to see. Next week we venture further into Norwegian settlement to find more. We'll learn about Ringnes House, an original home that has been preserved for visitors to see.
He was a mail carrier to Fort Worth, and in the process of carrying mail, in the wet weather, the wheels were cupping, and he got this idea of a curved blade. And so he developed and invented the disc plow as we know it today.
Really?
Yes.
Right out here on this land.
Yes, right here.
The original. Now I can't help but notice that there's a disc plow piece sitting right behind me down here. Is this an example of?
No, this is a section of the original disc plow.
Oh, the first one.
Yes.
So we're here.
This is handmade here. So.
Wow.
Then we'll visit the home where Kling Pearson spent out his final days.
This is actually believed to be one of the oldest log cabin structures in the area. Built
Oh, so
somewhere
this
around
was a
1850.
house.
This was Kling Pearson's house.
It was his house.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is where he lived.
And finally, we'll visit the old Norway Mills town site and discover part of the town that has somehow managed to survive over 160 years and long after the town disappeared.
Oh, wow. Olaf, that is so cool.
1895 is about when they closed it down.
And so this has been out here basically unused for well over 100 years.
Our tour of Clifton's Norwegian history continues next week, but for now it's time to kick back and cool off after a day of exploring. And our guide Ashley knows just the place.
So Bob, welcome to Crankville's Gap and the Horny Toad Bar and Grill.
Awesome.
While the Horny Toad Bar and Grill is a fun place to visit, don't let the small town bar fool you. They also do very big things that reach far beyond tiny Crankville's Gap, Texas. The story stems from the sudden unexpected death of Nikki Carlson, the daughter of Horny Toad's owners Sandy and Owen Carlson. Nikki had a passion for wanting to help the less fortunate, so the Carlsons started Nikki Warms the Cold in honor of their daughter. The charity started off with a small mission of distributing coats and blankets to people in need. But soon, the Carlsons had another idea that has become a major funding source for the program. In 2012, Bacon Bash was born. The event now attracts bacon fans from all over the country to the tiny town of Crankville's Gap, bringing in over 1,500 visitors and helping to raise over $180,000 for Nikki Warms the Cold and other charities.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
I've got someone I want you to meet.
Hey.
Bob, this is Sandy. And Owen.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Owners of the Horny Toad Bar and Grill?
Yes.
Cool place you have here. I love it.
Thank you.
The family tells us that Nikki loved to give hugs and wants the people who receive the coats and blankets from Nikki Warms the Cold to feel like when they wrap up in that warmth that they're receiving more than just a coat, they're getting a hug from Nikki. Next week, we continue our tour of the Bosque County countryside to find more lost history of the Norwegians who settled in and around Clifton, Texas and Crankville's Gap. There's more lost Norwegian history to be found here, and next week, we're going to find it.
The whole, you guys are coming here. What are you coming for? You having drinks? You gonna eat some food? What are you gonna do?
Both.
Both? All right.
What we just did.
What we just did. That's right. So, where y'all from?
Fort Worth.
Awesome. Well, you found the right place, man.
We've been here before.
Oh yeah?
Awesome.
Good deal. This is my first time.
Yeah, they haven't.
But
And
no trip to the Horny Toad's complete, right?
Right.
Without
your
Horny Toad t-shirt.
look at that. So I'm going to go in there and put this on. I'm going to wear it all next week as we go around and tour more historic Norwegian locations in Clifton and Crankville's Gap right here on Expedition Texas. Let's go. All right.